When I say we, the collective we, I have a company, you have a company now. But back then, I was a solopreneur too to begin with. And I had to really look at myself and go, I'm talking about integrity with other people, but am I keeping my word to myself? Am I actually, like, the promises I'm making to the vision I have for my life, am I in integrity with that? Do my behaviors align with that? You ask yourself, is the person I am right now fully being reflected in how people see me? And where do I want, what vehicles would help me get there? It could be social, it could be stages, writing books, it could be anything, right? Media, businesses, operations. It's like, is my business doing well? Are we selling 1 to 2 core products? Is our business model right? I named the book Unicorn Team, and even the process that I outline in the book, the Unicorn Team Innovation Model. That's actually what it's called. Because unicorns are rare. They're mythical creatures. We think of billion-dollar exit companies. They're called unicorns.
Can you talk to me a little bit about, internal, external brand messaging, what that means, how it's different?
Yeah. Oh, I love this conversation, man. I could talk all day about this one. We're going to talk about my book soon, I think. And what my book addresses is called Unicorn Team. And it literally addresses this question, which is, how do you get the next great ideas out into the world by rallying the internal people to get it done? Like, what is the relationship between the external communication, getting people outside of your world to want and desire the great idea that you have? And then how do you rally people, even on a small budget, especially at the beginning, to rally around you and drive that idea forward? And how you do that is, it's you. You're the leader, right? If you're a solopreneur, basically this idea of personal brand, most people, again, think of it as like external facing, right? Oh, I'm Jen Kem, I'm Bob Gauvreau, I'm like, the person they want to follow. The personal brand, you are as a leader of your company that you're building. Even if it's a tiny company of 3 people and a bunch of part-time or fractional assistants, you got to work on yourself as a leader. And that's the hardest part. I always say, like, if you want to be good at leading others, you have to be even better at leading yourself. You use that word integrity, Bob, as a young person. When you were a young person, all you ever wanted was to just be have high integrity and really, make sure that every time you showed up with somebody, you wanted to basically keep your word. And that's my definition of integrity, is that, can you keep your word? And we as when I say we, the collective we, I have a company, you have a company now, but back then, I was a solopreneur too to begin with. And I had to really look at myself and go, I'm talking about integrity with other people, but am I keeping my word to myself? Am I actually, like, the promises I'm making to the vision I have for my life, am I in integrity with that? Do my behaviors align with that? And again, I just want y'all to know, because I speak the real truth. I never lie. My kids they've got me a jersey that says Jen Don't Lie for Christmas one year. You're not going to do it perfectly. You're not going to always be in integrity, right? Because that's the other problem, is like, we think we have to be perfect. And all I ask myself is, when I'm considering doing something, I will ask myself, is this in integrity with my values? Is this in integrity with who I am? And when I ask that first, then I communicate better inside and outside. That's my point, right? It's like, so when we want to rally a team as leaders, we have to frankly be organized in a way that, if you're a visionary type of person, sometimes you're not that organized, right? And I have a whole framework for this in my book, of course, right? But it's like,
just sometimes though, just sometimes.
Right. So it's like, I call it a brand cast. So what I mean by that is, if you're internally trying to rally people around this idea you want to get to market, right? Or you want to get through difficult conversations, because humans, okay? This is why people also want to just deal with like AI and stuff, because they're like, humans are hard. We are hard. We've always been hard. And it just feels harder because of all the noise on social. But we haven't changed in terms of, like, we're all made up of different types of stars, I like to say, right? And different ingredients that came to our upbringing, et cetera. So we're dealing with that. And so as leaders, we need to have some tools. to be able to communicate clearly where we're going and to speak to our team, again, whether it's our teenage kid who's doing our social media for us, because by the way, that was my kid. She did like my filming in the beginning. She's my first employee. That here's where we're going, not just like, this is what I need you to do. Because actually, you don't really know what they need, right, to do. You know what you want. And so if you can't even communicate that and don't take the time for it, I think too many solopreneurs, or with tiny teams, they don't sit once. I have a weekly thing that I do that is called my brand casting time. And I'm just spending an hour going, this next 3 months, are we on track? Here's what I'm seeing that's great, that's working. Here's some of the feelings that I have about it. And then once a week, my team reviews the brand cast because it helps us. They can get into my mind because they're so sick of trying to read our minds, right? They're like, you're crazy. We don't know what you want. Can you just give us something linear to think about? And great teams understand that linear thinking usually comes after the nonlinear thinking, right? And if you're frustrated that like your assistant, for example, is a linear thinker, as that person should be, because that's their skill set, right? While you communicating your brand cast better, it allows that person, that assistant, to go, I don't fully understand what you mean here, right? Instead of it later going, hey, go get it done then. Let's get this project out. Let's go get it done. And they give you back the work. And then you're like, that's not what I wanted. And then you're frustrated. And you're like, I got to do it all by myself again. Because damn it, this delegation thing doesn't work either, right? And I'm like, part of the problem is that we spend so much time thinking about the task instead of the strategy of the communications, right? We don't think about like, let's spend more time up front. Like not just planning, because planning feels linear. But I tell that to people like, oh, planning, that's what you mean. I go, yes, we do have to do planning for the project. But I am talking about actually up at the top, creating a strategic communication process. I call it brand casting. And then your team has this process that I call prototyping. And prototyping is where they ask you questions based on the brand cast. They go, okay, I created some work for you. Great teams do this. I learned this actually in the corporate world. So it's not like something I made up, okay? And then I right-sized it for my entrepreneurial life because I can't deal with the red tape and politics in the corporate world. We have no space for that. We don't have like tons of resources to waste, right? So I knew that the key two tools that really helped me communicating to my team in the corporate world were these two things I actually did make up inside of the thing because I was like, I was in charge of product development, guys. So I was in charge of product innovation. So for me, it was like, I had to get a way that I could translate all the old white men in the boardrooms vision of whatever big pocket money they were going to make into here's the strategic idea we're going to get out there, we're going to create. And then to the people, and we're talking about diverse people, coders, lawyers, accountants, people who worked outside on telephone poles, because I worked in telecommunications, right? So these are all very different kind of humans. It's no different if you're a solopreneur and you have an assistant. Same kind of thing. You're dealing with people. So this prototyping idea that I'm mentioning, Bob, is really a powerful tool that we use with inside of my company as well as like with our clients. Is we say like we have a 5 to live thing. So it's like if Bob writes his brand cast, I say Bob wants to build his personal brand, bring it to the next level, right? He uses the brand cast process. He writes it out, and then his person, who's your person who does like a lot of what I'd call like getting your marketing out there on your team, Bob?
Catherine.
Okay, so Catherine. So Catherine will say she'll take the brand cast, and she'll go. We call it 5 to live. So she has 5 opportunities before you get annoyed at all. Okay, now Bob probably doesn't get annoyed, but inside he's really annoyed because everybody gets annoyed. Okay, he's also Canadian, so he acts like he's happy on the outside, but he's really irritated when people don't get in. So because he's a human being, right? So he's a good boss. He's not treating Catherine horribly, but inside, if it's not translating, it's a little frustrating, right? So instead, now, Catherine has this powerful tool called prototyping where she can go, is this what you meant? Is this what you meant? And when like literally putting in the linear plan that says, this is what I heard you say. This is what it is. Can we move forward? Or not even can we move forward? basically sign off. And that's how on my team, people always say to me, Jen, you're everywhere. Like, you must be so good at social media. I'm like, oh my God, I hate social media so much. I hate it so much. So what we do is these 5 to Live brandcasts, because it's an internal communication tool that allows us to create that culture of accomplishment energy, I like to say. People want to feel accomplished. Your team, even if it's, again, your teenager, they don't want to disappoint you. Okay. They're not there trying to disappoint you. They don't want that. They want to feel as accomplished as you, right? Want to be. And if you start to use these tools and adopt these tools, you'll get your dreams to happen faster. But a lot of times we, again, go, what's the next shiny object? Let's go create a new idea. You guys didn't get it. And sometimes that's necessary. But to be honest with you, for most of you, that's not what's necessary. You got to work on yourself as a leader. You got to work on, can I be patient so I can go faster, later, sooner, faster, quicker? The more you do this up front, and the more you, one more thing I want to say about the leader, because this is so important. The biggest, I think, challenge that I see with clients, and I think you'll see, Bob, and your listeners will see, is there's this weird relationship between the brand, the business, and the leader. Okay? So meaning, let's say you're an expert in your field and you really know and understand, I gotta get my personal brand out there, like we've been talking about. You know you need to, but you're also running a very busy practice with team members. That's the business piece. You're making sure that clients are happy, that your contracts are being signed, all the sales and marketing and fulfillment duties. That's the business piece. And then there's the leader, which is you, which you're constantly working in yourself, right? Personal and professional development. Those are the 3 main actors in this decision of getting your work out to more people. And how you address that is you use, you first, for your personal brand, you ask yourself, is the person I am right now fully being reflected in how people see me? Okay. And where do I want, what vehicles would help me get there? So it could be social, it could be stages, it could be writing books, it could be anything, right? Media. Business is really operations, right? It's is my business doing well? Are we selling 1 to 2 core products? Is our business model right so that I'm not constantly getting pulled back into the business because it's not going well? Because that's the biggest issue is people be I want to build my personal brand, and then they got business problems. And I'm like, yes, you have business problems. And guess why you have business problems? Because you have leader problems, which is the next piece, right? So brand, business, leader. Because now you're not dealing with the ish that you got to address right here, right? Which is really, are you do your values, does the tongue in your shoe match the tongue in your mouth? That's what I'm always curious about, right? You got those Jordans on running forward, but that tongue does not match the one in your mouth. I see a disconnect there, right? Then again, that's why the business is possibly either performing at a mediocre level or in a way that threatens your ability to get more of your work out there. And that's what my company does, is addressing those 3 big, they're supposed to be symbiotic and synergistic, not competing with each other. And a lot of times they compete. Personal development, people are I got to work on my mindset, right? And then they're I got to go get an operator to run my business. And then they're I want to write a book and be on stages. These are my clients. Okay. And I'm yeah. And the reason that you're not doing it is because you have 4 different coaches, 5 different models you're working through, instead of going, what's the integration instead of separation of these 3 really important actors that are it's up to you, right? It's what you want. So that's what we do different too. It's just because I see so much stuff, Bob, and I just see so much trash on these internet streets, and I just want to clean it all up. And the problem is it's being recycled instead of thrown away and burnt. I'm stop recycling the trash. Really, let's go and build something new, something more sustainable, right? Because burning the trash and even recycling it, recycling is actually causing a lot of problems now too. So it's what really do we need to do with trash? Do we need to turn it into, so we got these people who are now turning trash into patio ware. Maybe that's a better way to use trash, right? Instead of using plastic, right? So it's all these really cool things that could be done if the relationship between the brand, the business, and the leader could be more healthy instead of unhealthy.
And I couldn't agree more. And, I know for me personally, when we went from about 50 employees to 100, there was a lot of searching in there where it was like, who is the leader that I need to become? And how do I get there as fast as possible? Because everyone who's following needs me to be the leader that they deserve. And I know I spent, I'm going to say, a year just focusing on that. And it took a long time. And, truthfully, I'm hearing everything you're saying about the whole marketing piece too. And so much trash, specifically in marketing, but in everything too. I even get TikTok sent to me about, this is tax advice that's being given out. Person's got 5 million followers and it's so untrue and actually dangerous, right? I'm like, what are you doing?
Bob and I were sitting at a table just a few months ago, or maybe a month ago, I can't remember, but where I made a little funny about it. I was like, oh, isn't it true? I should just go buy a Mercedes G-Wagon and so I can write off all my whatever. And Bob's like, please tell me you're not going to do that. That's not good advice. And I was like, no, I'm being funny because these are the things that people are telling people on, and even me not being a finance expert, but me being in business quite a long time, I do understand that we should be addressing and questioning. That's back to leadership. Bob, you're the kind of, I just want Bob more out there. I know this is going to sound so selfish because Bob is just going to kindly tell you, that's not a good idea. You might go to jail. Or actually there's a better way to secure the bag with your money, and that the tax laws that are so confusing to everyday people that we're afraid to get in trouble. But instead it's you need a Bob to be no, do you have a strategy around your tax? Do you have, so that you can maximize and keep more of your money, right? And especially when you obviously are in Canada. I know your business runs now in all of, in Canada and the US, but in the US especially, there's a ton of loopholes that are very legal, but a lot of people are taught, I think a lot of solopreneurs, we're talking about this stuff I do on branding, but I want everyone listening that you are losing so much money because you're not managing your tax and your, just your wealth plan right. I mean, I think we talk too much about revenue and not enough about what Bob does. And I think that it seems like it's not sexy. So how they make it sexy is they go on TikTok and they put a G-Wagon in your face. You know what I mean? And so I see it, Bob. I get it. It's frustrating. But if you're listening to two seasoned chickens here who actually know stuff, that's not really how it works. It's just not how it works.
No, 100%. All right. I love, personal brand, leadership, both of those. I think, I think leadership is, if anybody is wanting to build a company, first off, you've got to create that personal brand without question that you believe in and that other people believe in. And I feel like that's a great initiation of what leadership could look like, is building the path for others to follow, and doing so that is genuine to you. And I think leadership is the next new thing that everybody should be focusing on. I think it's being the leader that everyone else needs. I had a dinner one time with a gentleman, and very successful guy, and he essentially sat across from me and he said, "What do you want to accomplish?" And I said, "Well, I want to build $100 million professional services firm." And he's like, "Okay, so when are you going to become the leader that will lead a $100 million professional services firm?" And I was like, "I don't know what you mean." And he's like, "Well, you need to get there before people will follow." And that is just something where I was like, oh man, that stuck with me. And it's something that I think about constantly. So we're getting through the evolution of the important things that I know you focus on: personal brand, leadership. Now let's talk about maybe my favorite thing, and maybe one of your favorite things, which is building the unicorn team. So what does that mean, Jen? Tell us, what does building a unicorn team sound?
Yeah, I think that why I named the book Unicorn Team, and even the process that I outline in the book, the Unicorn Team Innovation Model, that's actually what it's called, because unicorns are rare, right? They're mythical creatures. We think of billion-dollar exit companies. They're called unicorns. If you've ever worked in corporate, in the HR departments, the unicorn talent is what they're looking for. They're looking for the next game-changing talent that they can recruit inside of their company. And I'm like, if you mix those two things together, billion-dollar companies, exit type of companies, are people who had great ideas that solved real problems, And then when you think of the people part of it, which is what I learned at corporate at HR, is like, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the rare talent. The people, when I say rare, I mean all of us are rare. Every single one of us is a unicorn. Unicorns are not born. They're built though. So like meaning you get to either choose to have a donkey life or a unicorn life. That's kind of how I look at it. And there's nothing wrong with donkeys, right? Donkeys are awesome, right? They are beasts of burden, right? They get the job done, right? But most of us don't want to be the donkey, but we've been fed some lie that we should be a donkey. Think about it, right? A regular but really hardworking person, right? And a unicorn on a unicorn team is made up of what I call 3 energies. So energy 1 is visionizer, energy 2 is strategizer, and energy 3 is mobilizer. And we actually, all of us have a mix, all donkeys that become unicorns have a mix of the V, the S, and the M. Okay. We're not just a visionizer. We are usually like, if you're an entrepreneur and you had a vision to start your own thing, and autonomy and freedom is one of your highest values, and that's why you like became an entrepreneur. Usually you have some vision, but you probably came with either you're more like a planner type, mobilizer type, or you are more strategic, marketing, sales. You can understand like where all the dots connect, da, da, da. And so it's really cool because this book, I outlined this assessment I've been using for years for private clients called the 9 unicorn leadership types. When I speak from stage, people just hear the V, the S, and the M, but there's actually 9. And what you're looking for when you first got to start with your idea. So again, we've got to say, is this idea mediocre or is it great? And so in the book, I talk about how you score whether your idea is actually worth implementing, because all ideas are good. I love ideas. I'm an idea geek. I love ideas, but I'm smart enough to know that most ideas are never going to come true, especially, and they should not be coming true from me, right? I should not be the one to make this happen. And I think a lot of times we get idea bloated, and then we're like, oh, we get stuck and whatever. And that's why I call it visionizer energy, not visionary energy, because visionary means static vision, meaning just here. So you're a dreamer, but you don't really move it anywhere. Visionizing means you are making it happen, and you are emitting this leadership energy that makes strategizers and mobilizer energies want to come to you and work with you. That's what Steve Jobs said. Steve Wozniak, who was the co-founder of Apple, he was totally mobilizer energy. This guy was a coder. You're like a genius guy who could like code anything, right? He's like one of those guys that's in a garage and he's kind of scary. Like who knows what was on his hard drive? You know what I mean? But like Jobs is more he's a VS leadership type, I call him. He's a visionary strategizer, very good at sales and marketing, understands human behavior. Like he knew what people wanted, and he had this vision for using technology as a way to solve everyday problems, right? Like when he talked about, when he came out with the iPhone, he was like, he told his team, very visionizer, like, I want you to build something where people see this device as not a device, but an extension of their hand, that they cannot be without it without being close to the people that they love. And that's the way he communicated. That's brand casting. Okay. Visionizers, brand cast. Okay. He was like, this is it. And so the mobilizers and strategizers on his team, there's this famed, if you ever watched the Apple movie or the Steve Jobs, there's a lot of Steve Jobs documentaries, but the one where I can't remember his name. I don't know why. Is it Skarsgård? It's the guy who played young Magneto in the X-Men movies. Okay. The one where he plays Steve Jobs, Kate Winslet plays his main strategizer during those eras. And the strategizer is the person who's like takes the vision and can turn it into a strategic plan that actually works, that you can get it to market. They're like your go-to-market people, okay? They have that skill set, that energy. Anyway, she was known to be like the only person who can control him because he was crazy, right? And then there was Wozniak, right? Mobilizer energy. And so my book shows you that, you imagine like, oh, I don't want to build a business like Steve's. Most of us don't actually. Like, Bob, I heard you name what you want. At least your next big thing is $100 million professional services firm. That's not the same as building a $1 trillion brand, which Apple is now. But guess what? you and Steve have in common and I have in common is that we all started usually at a kitchen table or in a diner or talking to our spouse or best friend about this dream we had, right? What we end up building, it becomes dependent on our own desires plus the team that rallies around us. Because sometimes even the team is what makes the idea get bigger. In fact, most of the time, that's the reason. So the book itself is kind of like, what are the ideas? How do you really know how to do it? Then it's like, what is your leadership type? And who are the other unicorns you need to send out the siren call to? Like, this is who I'm looking for. Because a lot of times we hire poorly. We hire like the first person who says yes. So in the book, I'm like, do you actually know what you need? Okay, to make this idea go, to build this brand that nobody can stop talking about. Well, you need to go find the other personal brands that actually see that they have the personality of, I want to be part of something bigger than myself. That's how you get what we call this intrapreneurial type of archetype, right? So entrepreneurs should be hiring intrapreneurs, right? People who have intrapreneurial energy, but really love working with other people. They don't want to do it by themselves, but they don't want to work in the static place. And I even talk about how if you're a company listening to Bob right now, or like that, how you can develop that intrapreneurial culture inside of your big company, because that's what I had to do when I was in corporate, and that's where companies need to go. That's my point about this book, is like you have to develop this intrapreneurial brand culture that I call a unicorn team, right? So then the third piece of it is then the tools. How do you actually, I can teach go-to-market to anybody because that's what I did. Like I bring big brands to market and personal brands. That's what I do for a living. But I identified in the book, like the three biggest problems, or not, sorry, the biggest problem is communication. That's the biggest problem, is being able to communicate who, how, why, and what, right? And so the three tools, I already mentioned a few of them, brand casting, stratagem, and prototyping are the three comms tools that we use to get unicorn teams mobilized towards getting that idea out. And we do it in a short period of time. So I'm excited about the book because people usually, when they think about team, they're like, that's not brand. I'm like, it is brand. Everything is brand. That's the thing. Everything is brand, actually, right? The people are personal brands. The products that you're getting out there, even your service, those are brands. That's a product, right? And then the leaders inside and the company that you want to build, right? GA, your company, right? That's the company brand. And so therefore everything is brand. So if my thesis is true, which it is, okay, very ruler archetype voice of mine, right? Like when I explain it like this, people are like, holy crap, this is what we've been missing, is this like connective tissue, because we go in after like, I got to fix my team. I got to fix myself. I got to go make more money, right? And this book helps you see like that you're part of the team too. You're an entrepreneur listening. You're not the only leader at the watering hole, right? You need other leaders, and you need those leaders to do probably a better job than you would. Like the mobilizer energy and the strategizer energy is typically better at managing people, right? Rather than just not leading. So what you want is you want to have this leadership council around you, right? Of people who are like, understand strategy, understand brand, understand like implementation, understand customer impact, understand systems and procedures, SOPs, and the book will also help people, whether you're a team of one or a team of 1,000, like what is your next unicorn you really need to hire? Like, and what? Because sometimes that unicorn looks like a mentor, right? Not like you said, that you knew you needed a mentor for a year or whatever to work on yourself. You're like, I really need this. I need to work on myself while I'm running the business. So you're running the business. You're really working on that leader who's going to show up to be that $100 million professional services firm that's going to attract unicorns that want to help you get there. So sometimes the next unicorn you need is a mentor. Sometimes the next unicorn you need is really just, an admin assistant to take off. Sometimes like when people ask me, Jen, if you could start all over, what would you have done? I'm like, I would have got a housekeeper earlier when I left the corporate world. And people are like, what? I said, but I had all these stories about it. Like, who am I? What am I thinking? What a waste of money. Plus I'm Filipino. So like if my mom found out that I had a housekeeper with 2 young girls, she would have been like, you are embarrassing me, So it was like, I had all these stories, but here I was trying to build a business. I still had my job because I was side hustle. I was like building my plan while I was in a very important job at Verizon. And then I got 2 kids who were like 8 and 4, And so for me, it was like, if I could have just had some help preparing meals and like cleaning stuff up, that would have given me 3 to 5 hours more a week to actually probably move faster. So my book is not just about, obviously, like the things we're talking about. I'm like, in fact, my publisher's like, I think you should write Unicorn Team Life, because I talk about how like we try to separate ourselves from the business or the brand. And it's like a lot of the pressure, friction, and noise is not just the people we work with or our customers, it's our families. It's our, like how to enroll them, especially when you're just starting out. It's really hard to enroll your spouse. He, she, or they are your main unicorn, of like if you're married or you're in partnership. And so, yeah, there's this whole thing. Of course, everybody's trying to talk me into like, let's further the brand this way, the platform for me too. And I'm like, we'll see. Let's start with this. I hope it changes the game and then we'll go from there. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that's the way to live a values-driven life, is like to know that other humans, I call them unicorns, that they actually do want to help you. They want to be part of something big with you. They just don't understand you yet. And it's up to you to help them understand. And so you got to become a better communicator. And that's, when I was pitching this book, I was so annoyed. I should, just for everybody too, if you want to build a personal brand using a book, I got rejected 70 times for this book by traditional publishers. It was really not just frustrating, y'all. It confronted every trigger ever. Because I'm thinking like, I'm accomplished now, right? I have a platform. I have years of experience. I have a decent social media following. I'm like, and look, Mo Pros, I know how to sell, right? So I'm like, why would you not want this book? And I'm telling you, they were like, people have written teen books. Nobody's interested in a communication book. If you're going to write about brand, write about messaging, right? And I'm like, guys, okay, yes, that's my second book I'm going to write, is about messaging. But why is this so important? Is because this is what's going to change the way people look at working with other people. And it actually can help with this loneliness epidemic. It can help with the people who don't want to actually go solo for too long. They're just like, well, I know I have to start there, but I want to actually build something. It's because they didn't get it. And I realized, here I am working against a violation and a void that's currently present, which is even traditional publishing doesn't understand where the world's going. Because this book is for where the world is now and it's where it's going, not just for what it was. So I'm like, there's great books out there on leadership. I've read them all. I share them with people, but most of them, and I say this, I hope everybody listening hears my heart when I say this, most of the people who've written them are old white guys that were really good at leadership in the 80s, right? And the world looks different now, right? And the principles of the books are still pretty solid, but who we are now has evolved. And so we need diverse voices on bookshelves, in the media, on the platforms. That's why personal brand matters so much, because the things that we say are we call impressive or like trustworthy, it no longer fits what the world looks like today. So it's people like us that have to rewrite the narrative for the new world. And we can only do that if we commit to being the leader, to running the business, or having a career that actually makes that impact, and then building a brand that people want to be a part of. Otherwise, it's just going to stay the same. And that's a bummer for young people, especially. Like I think about my kids, my 2 daughters now that I've mentioned through this podcast, they're both adults now. It's weird to have fully grown adult children. But I also have a 9-year-old son. And, all of them actually are like, they're questioning whether they want to have children. They're questioning whether, I want them to live their lives and have, do what they want. But the reason for that is because they feel like, I don't know, can I really make a change in this world, Mom? Like, is this world, I think, now there's the people who are willing to dance on TikTok, and then there are the rest of us. Where do we belong in this story? And I'm like, no, it's time for the new Steve Jobses, right? It's time for the new, all those guys, even Elon, and Jeff Bezos, and notice, all white guys, right? There are, if you're listening, there's room for all of us now. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, the gender that you are, how old you are. It doesn't even matter anymore. Isn't that great? And they were disruptors. And here's what's cool. They're still around. I mean, Steve unfortunately passed, because but I think if he didn't get liver cancer, he would have he's still here kicking. And who even knows what Apple would have created if he was still here? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. He was the master at the time, without question.
So anyway, I mean, I just want you to know that you have the same opportunity as any of those people, or even what looks like on the bookshelf as your favorite book that you're looking at and be like, oh, that person has all that expertise. Yes. And now do you have approachability and authority stories and frameworks and work experience and life experience that will actually help people? Then I think it's our responsibility to share that if we want the world to change, because it's not good. Otherwise, the world's going to keep moving and technology is faster than it ever has before. And that's not going to change. So I don't know about you, but I don't want to live the Terminator life. I don't want that movie to come true. I actually want
Yeah. No, 100%.
That's what I want. So yeah,
Jen, you always absolutely fascinate me, and I could chat with you all day. Listen, I believe, if I understand it correctly, your book is coming out in the springtime 2025. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's coming out in February 2025. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. If any of the listeners were wanting to get on a pre-list to get notified, how could they possibly do that?
Yeah, so it's all happening at the time of our recording. Obviously, you might be listening to this when the book's already out. But if you just go to my website, jenniferkem.com, if you're on my newsletter, you will definitely get that update. Where I love to hang out, and it's really me talking to you, is on LinkedIn. If you message me, it's me responding to you. I mean, even on Instagram, Instagram's not necessarily my core audience, but I have a pretty good following over there. And so if you like Instagram, you like hanging out there, that's a place I respond to DMs. And then I know Bob is going to give you all this free gift, which is the brand archetype mix. Reports over 400,000 entrepreneurs have taken it. It'll clarify your brand voice. It'll help you take steps forward. And I don't know what the link is right now at the top of my head, but I'm sure it'll be in the notes. And so I will. And if you do that and you take the test and you get your reports, message me and be like, oh my gosh, I found out I was an alchemist. And now I see some connection and I want to speak more through that voice. And I just will geek out with you if you do that. So yeah, LinkedIn, Instagram for chatting, YouTube. I have a whole channel, an educational channel where I talk about brands, unicorn team, messaging, leadership. So you can also find me there.
Definitely. And if anyone gets a chance to go see Jen Kem speak from stage, it'll change your life forever. The free gift with the archetype assessment is jenniferkem.com/successful. We'll include the link in here as well. Jen, thank you so much for being here and for sharing all of your wisdom with everybody else. I feel much less selfish now that I've been able to share this out with other people instead of just holding this all for me. But thank you for this. For everyone who's watching, thank you for showing up, being here today. If you like this podcast, leave us a comment, drop in some notes. Hey, we'll maybe bring Jen back if she's willing to talk about some of the things that you think are most important. Give us a follow. We want to continue to bring out incredible information to help entrepreneurs truly transform the world through the knowledge of good information. So make sure, if you know somebody who you feel Jen's insights could help, share this podcast with them. Make sure you connect with Jen. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Jen, thank you so much for sharing your time with us, and I can't wait to continue to work with you further.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Bob. This has been the best part of my day.